One of the most fascinating things about attraction is that it often lives in silence. It's not the words people say, it's the energy behind them. When a man is secretly into you, he might not come out and declare it. In fact, he might act like it's nothing at all. But his silence is never really silent. His body language, his attention, the way he subtly adjusts himself when you enter the room, all of it becomes a language of its own. It's the unspoken dialect of desire. A man who feels deeply but hides it will often communicate through micro signals. He'll glance at you when he thinks you're not looking. He'll lean slightly in when you speak, not even realizing it. His laughter will linger longer with you than it does with anyone else. These things may seem small, but they're not random. They're tiny leaks of emotion from someone trying to hold it all together. When feelings are strong, they find a way to escape, even through silence. The reason this happens is because attraction challenges a man's control. Many men are taught to lead with composure, to play it cool, to never appear vulnerable. So, when they're genuinely drawn to someone, it creates an internal battle between wanting to remain in control and wanting to be close. That battle doesn't show up in words, it shows up in presence. You feel it when he's near, in the slight tension that lingers between you, in the way he seems both calm and restless at the same time. And here's what's interesting, those subtle signals often say more than direct confession ever could. Because when someone says, "I like you," it's easy to doubt it. You can question motives or sincerity. But when someone shows it through their unconscious actions, that's harder to fake. That's when you realize attraction is less about what's said and more about what's consistently felt. So if you ever find yourself wondering, don't just listen to what he says. Observe what he can't help but do. Does he move closer when you talk? Does he find small excuses to make contact, to linger in conversation, to stay present when there's no real reason to? Because a man who's secretly into you will always find small ways to stay connected, even when he's trying to hide it. His behavior, no matter how subtle, will betray his composure. But here's the deeper truth. Those silent signals are not just about attraction. They're about fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of misinterpretation. Fear of vulnerability. Every time he looks at you but doesn't speak, that's a moment where emotion meets hesitation. And understanding that balance of desire and restraint gives you incredible emotional power. Because when you can read between the silences, you stop chasing words and start understanding truth. So don't be distracted by what he says to everyone. Pay attention to how he behaves around you. Because when a man is secretly drawn to you, his actions will whisper what his pride refuses to shout. The loudest truths are often spoken in silence, and the man who hides his feelings most carefully is usually the one who feels them most deeply. One of the most revealing signs that a man is secretly into you, yet trying to hide it, is how he manages his attention around you. You see, attention is one of the rarest and most valuable currencies in human connection. We give it to what fascinates us, to what pulls us emotionally. And no matter how composed a man tries to appear, where his attention consistently goes reveals where his heart already is. A man who's secretly attracted to you will often do something paradoxical. He'll give you subtle, continuous attention while pretending he's not. He'll be aware of where you are in the room. He'll track your energy without making it obvious. He may not engage directly all the time, but you'll catch those fleeting moments when his eyes meet yours, when his tone shifts slightly as if unconsciously softening for you. It's as though he's trying to balance two conflicting impulses. wanting to know you deeply while being terrified of being found out. This push and pull dynamic isn't just about attraction, it's about control. For many men, admitting strong feelings feels like surrendering control. Seed. So they find ways to feed their emotions while maintaining the illusion of distance. That's why you might see him act casual, detached even, seed, but then notice small inconsistencies. He remembers details you didn't expect him to notice. He comments on something you mentioned weeks ago. He reacts when someone else gets your attention. These are the emotional fleeks of a man trying to keep his feelings contained. The psychology behind this is simple but profound. Genuine attraction activates a part of us that isn't logical. It's instinctive. It bypasses filters and goes straight to behavior. That's why his body will often betray his words. You'll notice him mirroring your movements or subconsciously aligning his posture with yours. When you're speaking, his attention becomes laser focused, even if he's trying to seem distracted. The truth is, attraction disrupts composure. It shakes the structure people build to protect their pride. But what truly differentiates real interest from casual attention is consistency. Anyone can flirt for a moment, but when someone is consistently attuned to you, it's because they can't help it. You live in their mind, rent-free, and that mental presence shows up as emotional attentiveness. He may not speak it, but it's there in the way he orients himself toward you, in how quickly he notices when something about you changes, your mood, your energy, your tone. And here's the deeper insight. Real connection isn't about loud gestures, it's about quiet awareness. The people who care about us the most are often the ones most sensitive to our smallest shifts. So, when a man hides his feelings, but still shows that deep awareness of who you are and how you feel, that's not confusion. It's care restrained by fear. He's fighting himself while you're simply observing. You don't have to decode him or chase him to prove anything. Just notice how his attention behaves in silence. That's where truth lies. In the unspoken awareness between two people. When someone's presence lingers, even when they're trying to appear indifferent, that's not coincidence. That's emotion finding its way through restraint. The next time you catch that fleeting moment, his eyes searching for you when he thinks you're not watching. Remember, people can hide words, but they can't hide focus. And focus, when it's genuine, is the purest confession of desire. One of the most revealing signs that a man is secretly into you, yet trying to hide it, is how he manages his attention around you. You see, attention is one of the rarest and most valuable currencies in human connection. We give it to what fascinates us, to what pulls us emotionally. And no matter how composed a man tries to appear, where his attention consistently goes reveals where his heart already is. A man who's secretly attracted to you will often do something paradoxical. He'll give you subtle, continuous attention while pretending he's not. He'll be aware of where you are in the room. He'll track your energy without making it obvious. He may not engage directly all the time, but you'll catch those fleeting moments when his eyes meet yours, when his tone shifts slightly, as if unconsciously softening for you. It's as though he's trying to balance two conflicting impulses, wanting to know you deeply while being terrified of being found out. This push and pull dynamic isn't just about attraction, it's about control. For many men, admitting strong feelings feels like surrendering control. Seat. So they find ways to feed their emotions while maintaining the illusion of distance. That's why you might see him act casual, detached even, but then notice small inconsistencies. He remembers details you didn't expect him to notice. He comments on something you mentioned weeks ago. He reacts when someone else gets your attention. These are the emotional fleeks of a man trying to keep his feelings contained. The psychology behind this is simple but profound. Genuine attraction activates a part of us that isn't logical. It's instinctive. It bypasses filters and goes straight to behavior. That's why his body will often betray his words. You'll notice him mirroring your movements or subconsciously aligning his posture with yours. When you're speaking, his attention becomes laser focused, even if he's trying to seem distracted. The truth is, attraction disrupts composure. It shakes the structure people build to protect their pride. But what truly differentiates real interest from casual attention is consistency. Anyone can flirt for a moment, but when someone is consistently attuned to you, it's because they can't help it. You live in their mind rent-free, and that mental presence shows up as emotional attentiveness. He may not speak it, but it's there in the way he orients himself toward you, in how quickly he notices when something about you changes, your mood, your energy, your tone. And here's the deeper insight. Real connection isn't about loud gestures, it's about quiet awareness. The people who care about us the most are often the ones most sensitive to our smallest shifts. So, when a man hides his feelings but still shows that deep awareness of who you are and how you feel, that's not confusion. It's care restrained by fear. He's fighting himself while you're simply observing. You don't have to decode him or chase him to prove anything. Just notice how his attention behaves in silence. That's where truth lies, in the unspoken awareness between two people. When someone's presence lingers, even when they're trying to appear indifferent, that's not coincidence. That's emotion finding its way through restraint. The next time you catch that fleeting moment, his eyes searching for you when he thinks you're not watching. Remember, people can hide words, but they can't hide focus. And focus, when it's genuine, is the purest confession of desire. Another subtle yet powerful sign that a man is secretly into you, despite doing his best to hide it, is how emotionally reactive he becomes around you. Attraction has a way of stirring something deep within people. Even the calmest, most self-controlled man can find his composure tested when his feelings are involved. You'll notice that his emotions seem to amplify in your presence, even if he tries to suppress them. Suddenly, things that wouldn't normally bother him, like a small comment, a delayed text, or seeing you speak to someone else, start to matter more than they logically should. This emotional reactivity isn't always expressed through obvious displays of affection. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. He might become quieter, colder, or oddly distant, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much. For a man who's not ready to expose his feelings, detachment becomes a defense mechanism. It's a way of saying, if I pretend it doesn't affect me, maybe it won't hurt. But the truth is, the more he tries to disconnect, the more emotionally visible he becomes. His silence, his hesitations, even his avoidance, each one reveals a battle happening inside him between attraction and self-protection. What's interesting here is that emotional reactivity is rarely about the other person. It's about the parts of ourselves that we lose control over. When he's around you, he's not just react to you, he's reacting to himself. He's reacting to the version of him that feels vulnerable, that wants to impress you, that fears rejection. It's not about the words you say, it's about how you make him feel exposed to parts of himself he usually keeps hidden. That's the real reason he can't stay entirely composed. You're touching something within him that's beyond logic. Something raw, human, and profoundly real. You may notice his tone change slightly when he speaks to you, or how his energy feels heightened when you walk into a room. Even if he tries to stay casual, there's always a flicker, a small shift in the emotional atmosphere that you can't quite describe, but you feel it. These moments are not accidents. They're small emotional truths breaking through the cracks of his composure. And this isn't limited to overt emotion. Sometimes his reactivity shows up as protectiveness, subtle jealousy, or even an unusual sensitivity to your opinion of him. He may brush off compliments from others, but when you acknowledge him, even in passing, it stays with him. He remembers it. It anchors him. That's because validation from someone we deeply care about holds weight. It's not about ego, it's about emotional significance. You've become a mirror reflecting back a part of him he wants to be seen by. So when a man tries to act unaffected, but you can feel his energy shift when you're near, don't dismiss it as mixed signals. Understand it for what it is. Emotional vulnerability disguised as restraint. His reactions, however subtle, are evidence that he's not indifferent. They're signs of someone trying to manage a feeling that's already out of his control. The truth is, attraction doesn't always shout. Sometimes it trembles quietly beneath the surface, trying to find a way to stay hidden while still hoping to be noticed. And when you learn to read that emotional tension, you realize that silence can speak louder than words. Because no matter how carefully someone hides their feelings, emotion always leaves traces. And those traces, the small reactions, the slight changes, the moments that don't make sense, are where the truth about how he really feels is written. One of the most revealing signs that a man is secretly into you, even if he hides it well, lies in the way he pays attention. Not just the surface level kind of attention where he notices what you're wearing or how you've styled your hair, but the deeper kind. The kind that shows he's observing the details most people overlook. Because when a man's feelings are involved, he starts to notice the little things that others miss. The subtle shifts in your tone, the way your mood changes, seat. The expressions that flicker across your face when you think no one's watching. This kind of attention isn't accidental. It's instinctive. When we're drawn to someone, our mind naturally tunes itself to their frequency. Suddenly, their presence becomes something we can't ignore. He remembers things you said weeks ago, quotes you casually, or references a story you told once in passing. He might even bring up something you'd forgotten you shared, not because he's trying to impress you, but because it mattered to him. That's what emotional investment looks like. It's memory that lingers. What makes this so interesting is that men who try to hide their attraction often do so through control. They think if they act cool enough, indifferent enough, no one will notice what's really going on underneath. But attention is difficult to disguise. You can't fake genuine curiosity or the subtle pull of focus. His body language gives him away. The slight lean when you talk, the shift of his eyes when someone else commands your attention, the small pauses as if he's trying to find the right words to keep the conversation going. He's not just hearing you, he's listening with intent. Now, it's important to recognize the psychology behind this. Attention is the currency of care. We give our energy to what matters to us. In a world full of distractions, focus becomes an act of affection. When a man remembers the things that make you laugh, the small details about your day, or the way you take your coffee, that's not random. It's emotional prioritization. His attention tells you that somewhere in his mind, you've become important. But here's the twist. The more he tries to appear unaffected, the more his attention betrays him. He may try to shift the spotlight away, act like he's not watching too closely, or even tease you to downplay the depth of his interest. Yet, in those moments, his eyes are scanning the room for you. His ears perk up when he hears your name. His reactions are a silent confession. When someone's feelings are genuine, their awareness sharpens. They notice you differently, not because they're trying to decode you, but because being around you makes them feel more alive, more alert, more present. It's not about obsession, it's about resonance. Something in you stirs something in him, and he can't help but pay attention. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether he's truly interested, don't just listen to what he says. Watch how he pays attention. Watch how he remembers, how he reacts, how he tunes into your energy. That's where the truth is. Words can be measured, behavior can be masked, but attention, real, consistent, unconscious attention, is one of the purest forms of attraction. And that's the beauty of it. You'll never need to chase what's already watching you closely. Because when someone's heart is involved, their focus gives them away long before their words ever will. Another clear sign that a man is secretly into you, even when he's doing everything he can to hide it, is how his energy shifts when other people, especially other men around you, he may not openly express jealousy or stake any kind of claim, but his behavior betrays the silent tension. There's a subtle change in his tone, his posture, or even his level of engagement. It's not always dramatic, but it's unmistakable if you know how to read it. Because when someone cares, their instinct to protect or preserve connection often reveals itself before their words ever do. This kind of reaction isn't rooted in control. It's rooted in emotion. When a man feels something real, the idea of losing your attention, even temporarily, creates an internal conflict. He wants to play it cool, stay composed, but part of him tightens at the thought of being replaced, overlooked, or forgotten. That discomfort exposes what his words try to conceal. You might notice him inserting himself into the conversation, cracking a joke, or suddenly finding a reason to engage with you again. It's not manipulation, it's instinctive self-preservation. His emotions, no matter how deeply buried, resist invisibility. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Attraction activates not just affection, but awareness. When we value something or someone, we become sensitive to anything that might threaten it. That's why he notices who's standing close to you, who makes you laugh, who holds your gaze a little too long. He won't say it outright because vulnerability, especially for men, often feels like exposure. But in those moments, his composure slips. His reactions are the subconscious language of care. And here's where it gets deeper. Sometimes it's not jealousy in the traditional sense. It's more about emotional displacement. When a man hasn't yet accepted his own feelings, seeing you give your energy elsewhere forces him to confront what he's been avoiding. It awakens the truth he's been trying to suppress, that you matter to him more than he's willing to admit. That's why he lingers longer in conversation after seeing you talk to someone else. That's why his tone softens unexpectedly, or his guard drops just enough for you to catch a glimpse of what's real. He's not angry, he's exposed. But this is where you have to be careful not to mistake reaction for readiness. A man can feel deeply attracted to you and still not be emotionally ready to act on it. The key is not to feed off his jealousy or use it for validation, but to observe it as information. His reactions tell you the truth of his feelings, but his consistency will tell you the truth of his character. Emotional maturity isn't about whether he feels something. It's about what he does with those feelings once they arise. So when you notice those shifts, the sudden protectiveness, the subtle edge in his voice, the quiet attempt to reclaim your attention. Understand it for what it is, a glimpse into the heart of a man wrestling with his own emotions. It's proof that beneath the surface, something real is stirring. But don't chase that reaction. Don't lean into it as proof of worth. Because the moment you start needing his response to feel seen, you hand him emotional power that was never his to hold. Let his actions reveal the truth, not his tension. Let his presence, not his possessiveness, be the proof of connection. Because real attraction, when it matures, doesn't just show up in moments of jealousy. It shows up in moments of calm confidence. And that's the kind of energy worth waiting for. So remember this. If his energy shifts when others are around you, he feels something, but it's not your job to fix, confirm, or define it. Your job is to stay centered, to remain the calm within his storm of uncertainty. Because when you do, you stop reacting and start leading. And that's the kind of power that makes him not just notice you, but respect you. One of the most revealing signs that a man is secretly into you, especially when he's trying not to show it, is how he behaves when you pull back, when you shift your focus, slow your communication, or simply stop giving him the constant reassurance he's grown used to. Something happens. His calm fat ad cracks. His emotional detachment starts to waver, and you begin to see what words have never expressed. He cares deeply, and maybe more than he's been willing to admit. This moment is powerful because it strips away performance. When you stop chasing, you stop feeding his ego, and suddenly what's left is the truth. A man who was only casually interested disappears, but a man who was genuinely connected feels that absence. It bothers him, not because he's losing validation, but because he's losing a sense of emotional safety. The attention he once took for granted suddenly becomes a void, and in that silence, he's forced to confront what you meant to him. Psychologically, this response stems from one of the most human fears, the fear of emotional loss. People often don't realize how attached they've become until that attachment is threatened. For a man, especially one who has tried to keep his feelings under control, your withdrawal becomes the mirror that exposes his emotional truth. He may not text you right away, but he starts thinking about you more. He may not admit it, but he notices your absence everywhere. When something funny happens, when he's scrolling late at night, when he feels that quiet emptiness that used to be filled by your presence. But here's where it gets even more interesting. His reaction to your distance isn't just about missing you. It's about realizing how much of himself he invested emotionally without meaning to. Attraction often sneaks up on people. It doesn't announce itself. It grows in the spaces between words, in the comfort of your presence, in the trust you unknowingly built. So when you step back, it's not just you he misses. It's the version of himself he became around you. That emotional loss is what makes him rethink, regret, and sometimes reach out, and this is why your restraint is so powerful. It's not about playing games or trying to manipulate emotion, it's about standing in self-respect. It's about showing him and yourself that your attention is valuable, not automatic. The moment you stop over giving, you shift the dynamic. You teach him, without a single word, that love and attention are not earned through begging or proving, but through showing up. When you stop chasing, you stop being predictable. And that unpredictability is what wakes up his curiosity, his desire, and his respect. A man can only value what he risks losing. And your absence, handled with grace and composure, becomes the very presence he can't ignore. But it only works if it's real. You can't pretend to stop caring while secretly waiting for him to notice. You have to genuinely redirect your energy inward. To your growth, your peace, your self-worth. That's when the shift becomes magnetic, not manipulative. So, if he reacts when you pull away, if his behavior suddenly changes, if his interest rekindles, if his cool exterior begins to crack, that's not coincidence. That's emotional truth revealing itself under pressure. You've stopped feeding the illusion, and now his real feelings have nowhere to hide. The moment you stop giving him everything, you force him to decide whether he's willing to give something real back. That's where attraction evolves into intention, or fades into silence. Either way, you win because you've reclaimed your value. So remember this: when you stop chasing what's unsure, you create space for what's certain. Your silence can speak louder than any confession. And sometimes, the moment you stop caring so much about being chosen is the exact moment he finally realizes you were the one worth choosing all along.